Today we're making Björn Frantzén's onion soup, and this is a dish from his 3 Michelin star restaurant in Stockholm. This is for 6 servings, and macros for this is 634 calories per portion, 10 grams of proteins, 29 grams of carbs and 52 grams of fat. And if you want to scale this down, if you have this at its restaurant, it's actually really small portions, so you can scale this down quite a lot and go for much smaller amount. And if you want to do so, there's a link in the description to a spreadsheet that you can just change the serving size and the macros will be calculated for you. So we are starting off with 500 grams of shallots, and we're just gonna cut off the ends and cut them in half, and then we're going to be roasting these in the oven. So we're going to put the oven at 150 degrees, and from 500 grams of onion we end up with 350 left. Roughly chop them and let them slowly caramelize in the oven. I'm making this in advance. We're having this for dinner. This is my favorite dish to try to impress friends with. So 1 tablespoon of flavorless oil, and into the oven they go. Our shallots are going to be roasting for 50 minutes roughly. Next onion is Roscoff onion, and here we start off with 1 kilogram or 1000 grams. And once everything is chopped and peeled, or the edges are chopped off and peeled, we end up with roughly 800 grams. So what we're going to do is we're going to caramelize these, and basically you're just going to be chopping 800 grams of onion here. In a pan I'm using stainless steel here. We are going to put 20 grams of oil. Same thing here, just ordinary cooking oil, no flavor, not olive oil or anything. And 20 grams is roughly 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. So into the pan that goes, and then we're going to go for fairly high heat. So we're going for 6 here. My stove goes to 9, and we don't need to wait for our pan to heat up or anything. We're just gonna place all of our onions inside, and what we're going to do then is not touch this for a long time. We can basically leave this. We're starting at 1309 or 1310, and we want them to start browning or caramelizing in the bottom, and that takes quite a while. So you can peek in the bottom of the pan or at different places and see if this is started, but this actually takes quite some time. So 10 minutes in, nothing, and we can check on our shallots and give them a stir. And here you can see at the edge we have started to get some browning in there, but we can wait a little while longer. And also you can do some peeking to see, because your pan might not be heating evenly. And roughly just short of 15 minutes. So a couple of minutes later, now we're 50 minutes in, and around the edges we can see that we've gotten some browning. That means that we are going to stir these, and just use the liquid in the oven, liquid in the onions to deglaze everything, so we don't get a lot of burning in the bottom, and just scrape that up. And this is what we want. And same thing here, we're going to leave them for a while longer until we have gotten some more caramelization in the bottom. This time it's a bit faster, so as you can see now we're getting somewhere, and we are 10 minutes in this time, so we're saving 5 minutes here. And this goes quicker every time. So first 2 ones are the most time consuming, but it's actually quite thankful, because you can clean your kitchen, you can do stuff, so you don't have to be constantly stirring, and that means that this dish takes some time, but it's actually quite easy to make. 50 minutes in, our shallots are done. They can take longer or shorter, but you don't want them super dry, because we're going to use that to make sort of a puree in the bottom later on, and if they're too dry they're not going to mix well. So to this dish we're going to be using a mixer a lot. Then we're going to be adding 150 grams of cream. And Björn, the chef who made this dish, is a big fan of using a lot of lemon, which makes this fantastic. So 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And we don't want to forget our onions here. And I know it looks really burnt, but that's more... It doesn't look as bad in real life, it's more the camera. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt to this. And we're going to mix this. We want it quite thick, as I said. So just let that run and it's going to be quite thick. Then the onions in our frying pan are almost done as well. So we're going to finish them up with some butter, white wine and lemon as well. And as you can see, this is really thick, so we're going to be scraping that out in a minute. Just scrape the bottom of the pan one last time, and then we're going to be adding some butter. We're going to be adding some white wine and also some milk, cream and lemon juice. So 30 grams of butter, and this is going to speed up the process, so the last bit is going to go fairly quickly. Then we're scraping out our shallot onion thing here, our velouté, and we're going to be putting that through a sieve. And as you can see now, the browning goes quite fast, and soon we're going to be lowering the heat a bit before we're adding the wine, otherwise my fire extinguisher, my fire alarm will go off. And we're just gonna use a soup ladle to push everything through the sieve. And that means that we can just push everything through here, and if you use a soup ladle, this goes really smooth and fast. And then basically this part is done, so we can just place that in the fridge and let it until we need it. And now the onions are almost done, and I know they look burned, but they really aren't. So it's, I think, just the lighting. So that's done, and now our pan is a bit cooler, and I've lowered the heat to 5. And also we're gonna be using the blender again. So if you have a cleaning function on that, it's nice to run it, so you have a clean blender in a minute. And 100 grams of white wine that we're just gonna use to deglaze the pan, and then we're gonna reduce it until there's basically nothing left. And as you might have guessed, this is not a traditional onion soup, but I think most people who try this don't really guess that it's onion, but it's super nice, so I hope you try it. So almost all of the wine is gone, and that means that we're going to be adding 250 grams of milk and 200 grams of cream. And we don't want this to be as thick as our shallots, because this is going to be the actual soup part. Then just 200 grams of cream, and we're going to let that reduce for a little while. And here we're going to go for 2 teaspoons of salt, and then just stir everything together, let it reduce a bit, and then 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and just let that reduce a bit, and then into the mixer it goes. And we're getting there. And now we are ready to mix this. So everything in the mixer, and this is going to be a lot looser than the other, as I said earlier. So into the mixer, then we're going to need another sieve, and into a different pot this will go. because we're just gonna have everything prepped for when we want to eat, and basically just heat everything up when we're ready. So same thing here. Into a sieve, use your soup ladle to push everything through. You can use something else, but a soup ladle makes this really easy. As you can see, this is really fast. Lid on, put everything in the fridge, and basically 1 hour and 20 minutes in. Kitchen is clean, everything is nice and prepped. And now, 30 minutes before we want to eat, we are ready to take this out and start heating it. I like to heat it fairly slowly. You can heat it faster if you'd like. But I'm just going to be putting this on the stove, and I have kids who have early dinners. Just put it on 2 out of 9. And then it's time for the milk portion of this. So we're using almonds, and we're going to be using Marcona almonds. We're going to need roughly 170 grams ish. But for the macros, it's only 100 grams because we're not going to be eating all of those almonds. We're going to just use half of them, roughly half of them, to infuse our milk. So in with the almonds, a pinch of salt, and a bit of salt, and we're gonna be putting that on a low heat as well. Basically just lid on, put it on 2 out of 9 as well, and then we're just gonna leave it until the milk boils. Rest of the almonds, we're going to be chopping them up. I'm saving a bit for my kids who love these, so we're just gonna be roughly chopping them, and then we're gonna be using them as topping for a bit of a texture. And final part here is 100 grams of cream, and here's something that you might have a bit of trouble finding, but 1 teaspoon of licorice powder, and this actually makes a lot of difference. So if you can, try to find it. You'll survive otherwise. And also to our milk, we're going to be needing 15 grams of butter, which I totally forgot, but it's fine to add it later on. So just in with the butter and let that melt, and basically just whip up your cream. And we want to be using our cream and whip it hard enough so you can make some canals with them. And if you can make canals with them, it's done. And finally, another tablespoon of lemon juice. So a lot of lemon, but it actually makes this really good. And now we're just going to be sieving. We're going to sieve this and remove the almonds. They have done their job and infused the milk with some almond flavor. So just get those out of there and basically just pour everything back into the pot. And then we're going to be using a hand mixer to create some foam with this milk, sort of cappuccino style. And then we are ready to plate this. As I mentioned in the beginning, at Frantzén's these portions are really small. So if you want to make them a bit smaller, that's fine. Basically divide your shallot cream into 6 or how many servings you want. And then we're going to be using our milk foam and just spoon that on top of the shallots. And then we have our Roscoff onion soup that we're going to pour over our shallots once. And then we're going to sprinkle some almonds on top of these. And Frantzén also uses 1 teaspoon of almond oil just to sprinkle before you add the cream. I've never found some almond oil, so I never actually had done that, but it improves it if you want to use that. And if your soup is really hot, the cream might melt. So you can either have hot soup or a bit lower temperature and nicer canals. And then finally we're going to be sprinkling some licorice powder on our cream as well. And that's it. when I want to impress my friends, this is what I use. So, I hope you tried, and if you do, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.